Hi, babe, it's Tilly here. If you didn't know, Susan and I are directing a very trans short film, and the producers are crowdfunding it, and now you can support it and help make it happen. Set 25 years into the future, along the way is a sci-fi story about Victoria and the father who died when she was very young. As a trans woman who transitioned as an adult, her father never got to know her truth. She uses a one-round-trip only time travel device to jump back to our present and meet the man she can barely remember, bond with him over comics, and try to find out if he'd love her for who she really is. Written and directed by Tilly Bridges and Susan Bridges. Original comic art by our friend and GLAAD award-winning artist Richard Fairgray. Produced by Erin McDonald, science consultant to Star Trek, Erin Loss and Jessie Earl, known for her Jessie Gender YouTube channel. Crowdfunding is open from February 19th until March 21st, and there's a lot of cool rewards, including comics and pins featured in the film, shout-outs, behind-the-scenes stuff, and you can even get a producer credit. Check out all the details at tinyurl.com/longawayshort. And even if you can't monetarily support the project, which we completely understand, please sign up to follow the project and post about it and spread the word. Every little bit helps us make our budgetary goals so we can make this movie, because we need trans stories now more than ever. Thank you for your support. Love you. Welcome to Tilly's Trans Tuesdays. Now that you've got the needed context, we're going to dive into the movie itself and show you what PJ Torokvei had to say about being trans in the intentional trans allegory of Real Genius, Part 2. Hi, I'm Tilly Bridges, your host, and I'm joined by my writing partner, my best friend, my wife, our token cis representation, the realest genius I know, Susan Bridges.
Hello.
You agree with that one?
That's fine.
Yeah. Our returning guest is KESTREL Clayton, and just because she's a bad girl doesn't mean she's a bad girl. Welcome back, Kes.
Thanks. I'm so glad to be back here with you.
Okay, so last time I asked you about the best thing about transitioning, so it's time to flip it over. What's been one of the worst or most difficult parts for you?
You know, it's been overall a lot easier than I feared, but the most difficult part is probably everybody claims to be an ally. Very few
Oh,
people
yeah.
want to be thought of, very few people want to be thought of as hateful or transphobic. But a lot of those people who say, "Oh, I support you, you live your truth, I'm so proud of you," a lot of those same people aren't really on your side when the rubber hits the road. They
Yep.
want to keep us out of sports. They want to cut off our access to gender care. These are the people who think ally means I won't do a darn thing to protect you, but I promise to feel vaguely guilty about it. That
Yeah.
is not what allyship means. Very, very smart, wonderful person that I know. She said, being an accomplice means standing so close that the bricks thrown at us hit you too. And I
Yep.
think that is a great way to put it.
Yeah. Exactly right. There are so many performative allies, fake allies, people who just want to think of themselves as good people, or they think I don't actively hate you, so that means I'm an ally. But if you're not doing anything to actually help us, you're not an ally. And so many things, because not helping us aids our oppressors, right? So it's like, no, you can't just call yourself that. You don't get to call yourself an ally. The people from the marginalized community that you are trying to be an ally to are the ones who get to decide if you're an ally or not. And it's, based on your actions. It's so much more than words.
And we've had so many chances in the last few years for these people to tell us who they are and whether they really care. It
Yeah.
affects how you vote. If you vote for somebody who declares he's going after us on day one, that is a statement about whether you really care about me or whether
Yep.
my life is negotiable to you. Or people say, well, you don't want me to play this game or watch this media because it's transphobic, but it's just a game, it's just a TV show. But if
Yeah.
you are not willing to give up a video game or a TV show, if you're not willing to do even that for me, then how can I count on you to stand for me when it costs you something real? You
Yes,
just told me that
exactly.
you don't care. And by the way, I may have misquoted you, but that quote about the bricks hitting the allies too, that was
Yeah.
you, as far as
Oh,
I know. I don't know if
okay.
you recognized it. Maybe I
Go
misquoted
me.
you. Go you. Yeah, that's a great quote, and I love that. I
Thank
have
you.
repeated that so many times.
Well, let me ask you this, Susan, because I would say that you are definitely a wonderful, true trans ally in the accomplice territory. So where do you think, like, as a cis person who is a true trans ally and fights for us, where do you think other cis people are falling flat? Like, where do you think it?
Well, let's talk about that because I think
I thought you'd have opinions.
well, you see people who say I'm an ally,
Yep.
and then they do something maybe not so ally-ish,
Right.
or you even try to confront them
Mhm.
about something that might in fact be quite mild.
Yeah.
Like I've seen very recently someone who shared a graphic, and it was meant to be against the president, but it was also transphobic and homophobic.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, how could you say that about me?
Yeah.
I am an ally.
Right.
And I think it falls in transphobia and homophobia and racism all kind of fall under the same thing. We have been all raised in a racist society,
Yep.
a transphobic society, a homophobic society.
Yep.
And even if you personally do not think you are a racist,
Yeah.
you have been steeped in this.
Right. You have
have
beliefs
absorbed
without
it.
realizing it.
So
Those are implicit biases.
when you are being confronted about implicit biases.
Yep.
I'm not saying you are a bad person, that you have chosen to be a bad person,
Right.
which I think is where the disconnect happens. I'm not accusing you of overtly being a terrible human.
Right.
I'm just letting you know that you, as part of this society, are reflecting things that you may not personally believe, but you do not realize it.
Yeah.
And the thing that really gets me is then immediately y'all go to tone policing. And let's talk about that. Well, if you were a little nicer to me,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be acting this way toward you. Okay, stop it. You're not 4 years old.
Right.
Be a grown up.
If people can only talk to you about their oppression in ways you approve of, you are not being an ally to them.
Exactly. And I am sure there are people listening to this podcast who have done this exact same thing. And I want you to think about what you've done.
Please be better.
And that, you know what? You can just listen to something a trans person says,
Yeah.
a Black person says,
Yeah.
a gay person says, and not reply back and reflect.
Yeah.
And think about how you're feeling and react.
That's a really important thing, that the most important thing that you can do when someone from a marginalized community is talking to you about something you may have done or that you might not realize is to listen and believe them. That is step one of being an actual ally.
Turns my range up to 11 in about a second, and now I can't talk to you anymore. So, just be aware that no one is accusing you. They're trying to educate you. This person has taken the time.
Because you said you want to be an ally.
You said.
And they're like, here's how you can be a better ally. Your job is to listen.
And reflect on that.
And
And maybe be quiet after that.
Shutting up is always an option.
Shutting up is always an option. You can just move on.
Yeah.
You have
All
to
right.
share the spotlight. Sometimes you need to put that spotlight on somebody else because you need to use the privilege you have
Yes.
to boost somebody else's signal, not to push them out of the spotlight and say, well, let me tell you what she really means. Let me tell you what
Exactly.
this person really means. Let me speak for this person. No, sweetie, I can speak for myself. Thank you.
Yep.
Give me the spotlight for a minute. And talking to what you just said, if you're active on social media, you see our nominal allies do this all the time.
Yep.
Ableism, fat phobia, homophobia, transphobia, racism. And what I always say is Sweetie, the authoritarians you're dunking on will not see that meme, and they will not care. But you know who will? Your trans friends, your gay friends, your
Yep.
fat friends.
Yep.
They're going to see that and say, oh, this person thinks I'm a joke.
Yeah.
So if you think that you are helping us by pushing these hateful ideas, you are not. And you need to really rethink what your political views mean to you.
Exactly right. Like, I've seen so many people, like, especially with Trump and Musk, posting things that are fatphobic, homophobic, transphobic about them. And it's like, listen, you're hurting us. You're hurting all of these marginalized communities. And there are so many things that you can actually use, their own words and actions. Talk about those. That's what's bad. Right? So it's, yeah.
And I could go on about this a
We
lot.
could go on
but
about this forever.
I also want to add,
yes.
your intent is irrelevant.
It's
I want you
the
to
result
really
that matters.
think about it.
What happens? Yeah.
What you intended by what you posted is not relevant to the people that you're hurting.
Yeah.
By posting
Intentions
it.
are not magic.
Intentions do not, and a really simple example, if you step on someone's foot by accident, you still say you're sorry.
Exactly.
Even though you don't stand there and say, well, I didn't intend to do it, so I have nothing to say to you.
Exactly right. Thank you. See, this is why I asked you. Okay. But we need to calm down. We have a movie to talk about.
Very well.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Deep breaths.
Susan, that was such a great example. That is an example that I have used myself so many times. But that's great. I love it. Thank you.
All right. Before we dive into finally going through timestamps and talking about Real Genius, remind people one more time where they can find you online after listening.
Hi, folks. This is Sphinx of Black Quartz, and pretty much every place you can find me online. Probably the best place to meet me is at tech.lgbt/Sphinx.
Or they can come to the Tillyverse Discord server where you also hang out.
You can also come to the Tillyverse Discord server, which is really wonderful, and it is run by our own patron saint of the Matrix, Tilly Bridges.
No, you and all the other mods run it. I'm just the beautiful face on the front.
That's true, but it's a
Okay.
really great, beautiful face. And I guess
Well, thank you.
you'd be the matron saint. Is that a thing?
Yes. Oh, it is
Sorry-
now. Yeah.
It
Sorry for this.
absolutely should be.
Yes.
I'm sorry
I
for the
love that.
saintly misgendering.
It's fine. Okay. If you missed the needed context on PJ Torikve last week, you really must listen to episode 103 first. You have to understand all of that to truly understand what's going on in the actual allegory that we're about to discuss. I've tried to grab timestamps when I could as close to the moments I'm talking about. This isn't as dense as The Matrix or Barbie or I Saw the TV Glow, due to PJ Torikve's trans voice being one among many cis voices, but you will see it shine through. Before we dive in by timestamps, let's talk a little bit about the characters and especially their names because there is a lot going on there. The movie is about Mitch's acceptance of himself and his own transness. It's not as explicit or as strong and clean as Neo's journey in the first Matrix movie, but again, that's because here there is only one trans voice among many cis voices. But that's the allegorical journey he's on. Mitch derives from Mitchell, which derives from Michael, one of God's archangels. Michael even means like God, sort of. Well, what do you think that means? Well, allegorically, Chris Knight is a trans person who accepted their truth and is living out and proud, and Mitch is in awe of that, the way so many of us trans folks are in awe of those who came before us before we come out ourselves. Chris derives from Christ and Christian, and Knight is self-explanatory, and you see what that's telling you about Mitch. Chris is a warrior for what he believes in, being trans and living out and proud. And Mitch is like Chris, that they also work in the broader sense of the movie's surface, quote, rejecting conformity and embracing individuality, unquote, theme makes sense because the broader theme is actually about the trans theme underneath. But see what I mean by this being intentional? You don't accidentally pick those names. And if you think somehow you do accidentally choose those names, well, Hollyfeld is Mitch's future, trapped in the closet. If you pay attention, you will see there's a skeleton hanging in that closet for no good reason, but it's important because that future trapped in the closet is like death. Holly is often seen as a symbol of eternal life, and it apparently became associated with Christmas as its sharp leaves were symbolic of Christ's crown of thorns, and the red berries symbolic of Christ's blood.
Which
Jordan
was co-opted from paganism, but whatever.
Yes.
Let's move on.
Jordan doesn't conform to what you'd expect traditionally feminine students in the 1980s to look like. Her name is gender neutral, like Chris. She's the only real woman in the movie in that she isn't just there for a joke and has her own goals and motivations. She is a character. The others are mostly plot devices. Also, note that Jordan is the river Christ was baptized in. Jordan will be important to Mitch's self-discovery and acceptance of and becoming his true self. Now look, I am not Christian, but Mitch, Chris, Holyfeld, Jordan having names that all relate to Christianity had to be intentional. They are all of one and the same, but it's not that they're Christian, it's that they're trans. Holyfeld and Jordan both play a super important part in the allegory. Keep listening. Okay, Hathaway is sort of our stand-in for transphobic society, not as directly as Smith was in The Matrix or the CEO in Barbie, but here he's definitely the representation of everything wrong with the world. Hathaway roughly means near a heath, and a heath is a wasteland or uncultivated land with poor soil and drainage, but depending on which origin you trace it back to, could also mean something similar to war battle. So what you get is antagonism and violence, where there is nothing of value. This is what's to be found in the hate that bigoted cis white men peddle, and his name has nothing to do with all the Christ-related names which are about peace and acceptance. Pretty telling.
And masculine-coded violence as a
Yeah.
subtext of patriarchy is all through this movie. That is the background against which this whole movie happens. It's not subtext, that's text.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kent, oh, Kent. Kent is a self-hating trans person who has allied himself with the transphobes in power and rejected his truth for access to that power, very much like the Merovingian in The Matrix. Kent is also the past tense version of Ken, which means recognizing, knowing, and understanding something. So in the past, Kent recognized and understood his truth, that he's trans, but he rejected it and was rewarded for doing so. Did you pick up on any of this name stuff, Kes, or is this something only us screenwriting nerds do?
The names that jumped out at me as significant were
Yeah.
Chris Knight. I focused more on Knight than on Chris because Chris is, well, first of all, Chris is a non-gender specific name, and I think
Yep.
that's absolutely deliberate. But what is a knight? A knight is a warrior, and Chris does fight back against this patriarchal system of violence and control and explicit murder, but he doesn't fight it with his own violence. He fights it with empathy and with humor. And as a trans woman online in the 2020s, sometimes empathy and humor are among our best weapons.
Absolutely.
That really resonated with me. Jordan, also a gender non-specific name. And oh gosh, I have so much to say about her. We'll get to that.
We will.
I also kind of think of knights as also messengers.
Really?
Yeah. Because they're out in the field. They're like a figurehead.
They broadcast their allegiance. They're a knight for someone, for something. So in that way, they are a messenger for their cause, which in this case would be transness is cool, actually.
Yeah, I think also in the Tarot, they're messengers.
Oh, okay. Fascinating. I did not know that.
Yeah.
As a quick aside, the direction and acting on this film are spectacular. There are so many scenes where gesture, posture, and eye contact communicate so much. It is absolutely brilliant. I don't know how many of these are directions in the script and how much of this came from the director, Martha Coolidge, but it is brilliant. I think that is frequently overlooked. A lot of people see this as just, a dopey 80s teen comedy, but there is an enormous amount of craft lavished on it, and it makes it a pleasure to watch.
You're absolutely right.
Editing is so important with comedy.
Editing,
I
too.
think a lot of people do not realize how
comedy is all about timing. And editing controls the timing of everything. Yeah.
And so if you see a brilliant comedy, it is a brilliantly edited movie.
Absolutely right. All right. Time for timestamps. Let's go. 3 minutes, 59 seconds. After the opening movie within the movie about the crossbow orbital laser, a dude in this room full of powerful cis men asks what another thinks of it. The reply, I think there weren't enough girls in it. This isn't intended in terms of equality, but sexualization. That isn't explicitly trans, but knowing PJ was a trans woman writer that everyone thought was a cis man writer, how many times do you think she heard that exact reply while writing for movies and television in the 1980s and 90s? As writer Ian Boothby pointed out in part 1 last week, Real Genius is remarkably unsexist given similar movies of the time. This is what happens when you have a trans woman writing it and a cis woman directing it.
And the opening of this film really gets to me. What is more patriarchal, more cis heteronormative than performative violence and domination? The first thing the movie shows you is an act of murder.
Yeah. Although they show it very comedically with the guy just vaporizing in his chair. It's horrific, but it's also funny.
Yeah, this is true. And that's a hard line to straddle, and the movie does it very well.
Yeah. 4 minutes, 29 seconds. Referring to the crossbow orbital laser meant for assassinations, one of the dudes says, so it's both immoral and unethical? And they all laugh, ha ha, so funny. Much like the Matrix movies and Barbie, this is showing you what the cis white men in power think about the rest of us. They do not care if something is wrong, so long as it upholds their status and the social pecking order with them at the top.
And one of the people at the table objects and says, our studies indicate this type of weapon is totally useless in warfare, so it's not even effective. They just love the idea of shooting people with a cool space laser. And that one objector gets jobbed out. If you aren't manly enough, the patriarchy will remove you.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to talk about here, because 5 minutes, 10 seconds, there is but one cis black man in the room, and he is the one who objects and opts out of the idea of giving these men the power to eliminate anyone they want. As with the agents and every other person of power in the Matrix, cis white men are the source of the problem. They're the ones who established the system of oppression. 5 minutes, 35 seconds after the lone black man nopes out, one of the white men says he, quote, used to be a good man, afraid we're going to have to eliminate George. They allowed him into their circle when they thought he upheld their beliefs in their own superiority, but as soon as he told them what they were doing was wrong, he had to go. One of the old dudes immediately leaves as if to imply George was going to be killed right then. This speaks to the fear of marginalized people standing up to those in power, especially the fear of coming out, doubly so in the 1980s, and what'll happen if you do. Because coming out as trans is a direct threat to the lies cis white men established to keep themselves in power. And you see it right now in 2025 with these same cis white men in power working to strip trans people of our rights. We prove the cis binary is a lie, and that's what the entire system of white supremacist oppression is built on. Check out episode 11 of this show on the false dichotomy.
It's also a leopard eating faces moment for the black guy.
It is, sadly.
Yep.
It will not protect you to ally with the cis white men when you are not a cis white man. They will come for you.
They will.
Okay.
Tokens get spent. Tokens get spent.
Yeah. 6 minutes, 10 seconds. We meet Hathaway. He's getting asked for autographs, showing you he's well liked by the general population, even though he immediately demonstrates what an asshole he is. Bigotry was somewhat celebrated in the past. Even more than it is now, as hard as that is to think about. 6 minutes, 29 seconds. We get Mitch's intro, and you see right away his parents don't understand him. It's literally like he speaks a different language because he's trans and they're cis.
Mitch is such an egg. His body language is so closed up. He's so uncomfortable in his very masculine coated clothes. He constantly wears a tie and often a sports jacket, a button-down shirt. He's unsure how to perform the role expected of him. Again, I wonder if that's in the script or is that in the direction? Is that something the actor contributed? But that kid is eggy as all heck.
Yeah, it may be all three. It's these things about collaborative art, right? You never necessarily know where each little bit came from, and that's kind of the beauty of it. 8 minutes, 19 seconds. Mitch, they're really all right. It's just sometimes they have no idea what I'm talking about. Is there a clearer description of family and friends that you love but who just cannot understand who you are? Remember from part 1 in the letter written by Stan Brooks after PJ's death, he talked about not really understanding who she was or what it meant to be trans and continually dead-named and misgendered her out of ignorance. Mr. Brooks at least continued to love PJ as a friend. 8 minutes 28 seconds. Mitch doesn't have many friends and thinks he intimidates other kids. He's an outcast. He feels like he doesn't fit in and nobody likes him. This is life for a lot of trans people, pretending to be cis and being very bad at it while our gender dysphoria keeps us isolated. Check out episode 59 if you need more on dysphoria.
And I noticed that Jerry Hathaway's response to his sense of isolation, to Mitch feeling like people don't like him, people don't get him. What does Jerry Hathaway say? Well, you're better than them. You have to be stronger. You have to dominate with your big brain. You have to
Yeah.
masculine harder to make people obey you, but not
Yep.
like you. Who cares if they like you? They have to obey.
Yeah. 8 minutes 50 seconds. Hathaway thinks he and Mitch are alike and is honoring Mitch by getting him accepted to Pacific Tech at such a young age. He wants Mitch on his team to be cis like him. Society sees the outcast and wants to mold him into the person it wants him to be. Mitch thinks this is what he wants because he's been told by society that's who he should be. You're a cis guy, this is what cis guys do. And so he goes along because that must be true. What else could there be? All of gendered society isn't built on lies, right? Babes, see episode 95, Trans Trauma 2, Societal Gaslighting, for more. 9 minutes. Mitch is going to be working with Chris Knight, a legend Mitch already knows of and is kind of awed by Chris. 9 minutes 5 seconds. Cut to Chris and we immediately see, even from his shoes, that he does not dress like those around him or like you'd expect. He does not conform. A trans person.
Chris Knight is a complicated character and hard for me to read sometimes. He's trying to defy the system while still living up to his expectations. Sure, he's wearing the toy on his head because if he wears it anywhere else, it chafes. And he's got the shirt that says, I heart toxic waste.
Yes, going to talk about that in a minute.
He's also going for the job that is expected of him, working in this industry that is implied to be hurting people. They launched a satellite that is raining debris all over Europe. So he's, I think, still, he knows who he is. He's trying to find out how to be that because he's still very young.
Yeah, there's a whole bit we're going to get into later about trying to be who you are when the system says there's only one way to do it. So we will get there.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. 9 minutes, 15 seconds. And just in case the shoes weren't enough, you get his subversive shirt and his alien bobble headband. He doesn't care that society thinks he looks ridiculous and not like they want him to. He's more comfortable being his true self. I love toxic waste is on his shirt. This thing society says is toxic waste, being trans, I'm gonna love it. 9 minutes, 23 seconds. The cis white dude in the suit pulls open the door for Chris, but Chris pushes in the other door on his own. He doesn't want the path society has laid out for him. He's going to make his own way. Cis, no thanks, that's not who I am. 9 minutes, 50 seconds. Chris is introduced to Sherry and Mike. Chris immediately undercuts Mike, the cis white man's boasting, takes him down a peg. Chris is charming, disarming, witty. Sherry, a woman, finds that entertaining, almost like cis women are hurt by the false binary too. Mike has no comments about Chris's manner of dress until he learns that Chris knows the flaws in his project and then instantly moves to insulting him. Your deviation from the norm will only be tolerated by some if you know your place and don't threaten their power.
You're an ally until you expect equality or any kind of sacrifice from me, and then you're on your own.
Exactly right. Sherry here is instantly into Chris. The surface of the movie posits this as just her liking to seduce the smartest minds in the country, but she's used in a very clever way as part of the allegory later on. Just remember the woman liked the out and confident trans person. 10 minutes. Chris apologizes for the alien bobble headband with a joke. I didn't want you to think I was stuffy. You know, no fun. All brain, no penis. No penis. Sure, he didn't mean it literally, but do you think that line is an accident in a movie written by a trans woman that is about transness? Chris appears as a cis man, right? So this is showing you right away his transness is one of the ways he doesn't conform. Kind of like how trans is in the very opening shot of The Matrix. It's right there. Are you paying attention? 10 minutes, 31 seconds. As the stuffy cis white dude leaves, he mentions to Chris that Sherry will answer his questions about anything, like dress codes. Hey, trans person, your clothes and presentation don't meet our expectations. Fix it.
And going from male presentation to female presentation in the workplace, a lot of us have the experience of being much more strongly policed. I'm an
Sure.
IT nerd and I'm mostly a remote worker, but I have peers who work from the office. And as a boy presenting person, they'd show up in, beat up sneakers, a
Yep.
Budweiser t-shirt and cargo shorts. They start showing up in girl mode clothing and then that's too formal. That's not formal enough.
Yep.
You're showing too much skin. You're not looking femme enough.
Yeah, absolutely happens. 10 minutes, 40 seconds. Cis white dude says Chris is one of the 10 finest minds in the country. Chris, someday I hope to be 2 of them. This could mean he is of 2 minds or has a duality, was raised as cis but is actually trans. I can't entirely parse it, but there could be something there. But also sometimes a joke is just a joke. But there's more. This is showing you Chris is a member of a small minority. Trans people. Remember, we're maybe 1% of the population by our present best estimates. The actual percentage is likely higher due to some trans people not being out or knowing they're trans yet, but we're still a very small percentage of the population.
So we're 1% of the population, but someday we hope to be 2%?
Very good.
I think it's important, though, to talk about that, how small.
Yeah.
Especially with all of these really horrible and stupid executive orders coming out.
Yeah.
Like things about banning college trans athletes, and there's like less than a dozen of them in the entire country. Like you just made a law for 10 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
For 10 people.
It's ludicrous.
The huge risk of 10 people. Like, it's just so over the top. Like, you really, cis people, you need to understand how completely over the top.
It's nonsense.
It's absolute nonsense.
But what I want you to remember is that Sherry is clearly into the smartest people in the country, the smallest minority in the population. Does this make her a chaser? Yep. They've been around for as long as trans women have been, forever. Now, this isn't saying trans people are smarter than everyone else by default, although we can see the cis-binary matrix of society better than anyone else. That's just how the allegory works in this one moment, so you understand what Sherry is about later.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who got kind of chasery vibes from her.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not just me.
No.
She's very creepy.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, ugh.
If you need a reminder, see the essay on chasers and the fetishization of trans women at TillysTransTuesdays.com. The movie doesn't really have anything to say about chasers, even though it features one, but what's important is what it uses Sherry to say in terms of the overall allegory, and that has nothing to do with chasers. It's a ways off yet, but we will get there. 11 minutes, 25 seconds. Mitch meets Jean, who teaches at Pacific Tech. Jean says they've been told to expect great things from Mitch. 11 minutes, 50 seconds. Jean wants to give Mitch advice, but seems confused, addled. Jean sees transness in Mitch like he sees it in himself, and this gets confirmed later. But Jean hasn't self-accepted and doesn't know how to help someone self-actualize when he hasn't been able to help himself. It's an egg recognizing another egg. Eggs are what we call trans people who don't know they're trans yet. 12 minutes, 2 seconds. As Mitch walks, someone asks him, "Where's the funeral?" I think the movie wants us to think that's due to the suit he's wearing, but as a trans woman pretending to be a cis man, suits were hell for me. They made me feel like dying because they're the most heavily male-coded clothing around. I suspect PJ felt that too. See heavily gendered clothes and trans people in episode 15 of this podcast. 12 minutes, 38 seconds. Mitch gets to his dorm and his clothes are missing. We learn later Chris took them and put them away. Chris is already trying to show Mitch that those men's clothes are not for you. 12 minutes, 43 seconds. Chris's side of the room is messy, chaotic, and we again see that he does not conform. 12 minutes, 52 seconds. Hollyfeld enters Mitch's room, disappears into the closet. Note he's dressed similarly to Mitch, but he has a beard and his hair is longer. Remember that Hollyfeld is Mitch's future. This is you in 20 years, trapped in the closet.
The first time we see Laszlo, he is literally going back into the closet. Subtle this ain't.
Yep. 13 minutes, 16 seconds. Mitch, what kind of a place is this? This isn't the world he's used to, and things don't work the same. It doesn't make sense to him. It speaks to waking up to why the world feels wrong when your egg starts cracking and you discover your transness. 13 minutes, 19 seconds. Chris, would you be prepared if gravity reversed itself? Chris is upside down and talking about flight. This is foreshadowing that he's going to reverse Mitch's ideas about the world, and it will free him of the societal restraints holding him down. Flight is used as a metaphor for gender euphoria in the Matrix films, and I even described my first experience with it the same way in episode 9 of this show on body hacking. Also see the essay on gender euphoria at tillystranstuesdays.com for more on that. But dysphoria is so oppressive and legit feels like a weight on you, so when it lessens, you feel lighter, like you could fly. But if gravity reversed itself, Chris doesn't know how he'd keep the change in his pockets until he realizes nudity means he wouldn't lose his change. To me, this is saying that the way to not lose the changes you want to keep is to be naked and completely honest with yourself.
Chris Knight is such an interesting character. He gives me the vibe of a woman who knows she's trans, maybe isn't fully out yet, because she does, well, Chris, the movie makes Chris male-coded. Chris is still figuring out what his transness means to him. And as with Laszlo, there's this instant kinship with Mitch that I don't think either one fully understands yet. They're still figuring it out. They're young people. Chris understands, okay, the whole masculine, patriarchal, cis heteronormativity is not for me, but he's still figuring out what is for him.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to realize that Chris is very joyful. See,
he is.
That the discovery.
He has found a lot of euphoria, trans joy. Yeah. 13 minutes, 30 seconds. During the conversation, Chris continues to not conform. They're jokes, but they're all about not conforming to your expectations. He asks Mitch if he'd like to use his penis stretcher, and Mitch says no. Is that because it'd be dangerous, or is it because penis size has often been used as a sign of manliness, and that's the last thing Mitch wants, to be more of a man? I'm just saying.
Basically a bottom surgery reference.
A little bit, yeah. 13 minutes, 50 seconds. Chris wants to avoid responsibility, all the obligations and expectations society saddles you with, so you will conform and perform your assigned gender correctly. 13 minutes, 59 seconds. Chris, you see, Mitch, I used to be you. Chris used to be an egg, a trans person who didn't know they were trans and hadn't self-accepted. Are you seeing how so much of this is so very trans when you know what to look for? You'll see this pop up again later when Mitch's journey is almost complete. 14 minutes, 14 seconds. Chris wanted to reconnect with his old self and early in transition Mitch, so he put Mitch's clothes away for him in the bottom drawer, and he threw the sports jacket away. He's already pushing Mitch along the path of acceptance and realization of his true self. Those clothes are not for him. 14 minutes, 35 seconds. Chris's drone breaks out of the room, shatters a window. Chris, would you classify that as a launch problem or a design problem? Did things go wrong because you were, quote-unquote, designed incorrectly, or because you were sent off into the world incorrectly? Are the feelings you have about not being a cis man because you were born with a body that's not right for you, or because society used that body to tell you who you had to be without deviation? It can be both, and either way it shatters societal expectations. 15 minutes, 29 seconds. Not only is Hathaway working with the cis white men in power to develop their weapon, he's committing fraud and stealing from the project. He's unethical in every regard. There is nothing good about the wrong mold society tries to force us into. It's irredeemable. 16 minutes, 58 seconds. Kent! He's a self-hating trans person, the kind that'll sell out himself and all the rest of us for access to power. And you get that right from his line. Quote, when Hathaway's not here, you do what I say. It goes from God to Jerry to me. You see right here that he has gained power and status by rejecting his transness.
Kent is the warning. Kent is who society wants Mitch to be. And the first thing we're shown about Kent is he's angry and miserable.
He is so miserable.
The first time we see him, he's trying to be a miniature Jerry Hathaway, all performative strength and performative cruelty. And we see that he craves validation of the people around him, but he doesn't really seem to have any friends.
No one respects him at all.
His peers hate him. and he hates
Yeah.
himself.
Yep.
And over the course of the film, we see more than anything, he hates seeing Chris and Mitch self-actualizing. And there's a
Yep.
strong subtext of, well, if I have to be performatively masculine, you do too. Because
Yep.
I'm not going to suffer alone. You have to do this too.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more with Kent coming up. 17 minutes, 48 seconds. Mitch is introduced to the group and is Hathaway's new favorite. Chris didn't show up because he didn't feel like it. Everyone in the group is subservient and deferential to Hathaway except Chris, which tracks with everything we've learned so far. 17 minutes, 53 seconds. Hathaway says he's surprised one of the students stopped stuttering, and he replies, quote, "I've been giving myself shock treatments." What's a stutter? Something about you that you didn't ask for but is part of you, like transness. And did you know shock treatments also used to be used to try to quote-unquote cure transness as part of abhorrent conversion therapy? Look what this person did to themselves for access to power. It's an incredibly dark line. See the link in the show notes if you've been blissfully unaware of what conversion therapy is.
Yeah, that hit me hard.
Yeah.
Shock therapy, besides association with conversion therapy, electroconvulsive therapy was also used non-consensually up until the 1970s on a lot of people for quote unquote mental illness, which was often
Yeah.
nothing more than a failure to conform to society. But ECT was disproportionately used on people who were perceived to be homosexual
Yep.
or otherwise non-gender conforming.
Yeah.
So there's some detail there, and I do wonder if the writer was aware of that. It wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me a bit.
I would suspect she was. 19 minutes, 24 seconds. Mitch is already more relaxed and dressing more comfortably. This is the first time we've seen him not in a suit. Chris has already inspired Mitch to move along the path to self-acceptance and actualization, away from quote-unquote typical man. Seeing other trans people out and living their lives and finding joy inspires others to do the same. I've said it a million times. So many trans women and trans women writers made me believe I could do it too. And it's part of the reason why Republicans in power want to erase trans people from public life. Because if nobody can see us or learn about us, how will they know they're trans too? I didn't know trans was a thing a human could be until well into adulthood, after the body horror of the wrong puberty had wreaked havoc on my body. Thanks for being here, Kes.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Tilly.
Next time, we're going to talk about Chris's dream. Oh, the dream. Lyrics and nonconformity. Don't miss it because you need it to really understand the amazing message at the end of it all. Tilly Bridges, end transmission. Tilly's Trans Tuesdays is hosted by Tilly Bridges and Susan Bridges, with audio editing and sound mixing by Jillian Morgan. The written essay version of this week's topic and all past topics is available at tillystranstuesdays.com. Special thanks to Daisy and Jane for the use of Sorry Not Sorry as our show's theme music. Please stop by and show your support at daisyandjane.bandcamp.com and soundcloud.com/daisyandjane. You can find me at Tilly Bridges on Blue Sky and on Mastodon at tillybridges at mastodon.social, and you can find Susan on those at Susan L. Bridges. You can find Jillian at Audio Jillian on Blue Sky. You can join the Tillyverse Discord server by following the link at the very bottom of tillystranstuesdays.com. We hold regular watch parties for the Matrix films and other trans movies where I do a live Q&A, and it's blossomed into a wonderfully supportive, compassionate, kind community of friends. We'd love to have you join us. If you'd like to keep up with all the writing that Susan and I do, you can sign up for our newsletter at birdguestbroadcast.com. If you enjoy this show, please take a moment to leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. The largest segment of our listeners find the show there, and more reviews equals a higher profile, which means it will reach more of the people who need it. Thank you for your support. For more information, visit pendantaudio.com. Thanks for listening. No penis.